Today, we are doing our trade deadline rumor extravaganza. What's going to be the landing spots for names like Luis Robert, Eugenio Suarez, Sandy Alcantara, and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ney. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you notifications every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, once again, please make sure you subscribe. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would appreciate it if you could do that for us as well. And lastly, and what's most important to you guys and Matt and I, and what's going to help you get that Locked On Fantasy Baseball Championship, join us on the Insiders Track, where you're going to get those instant prospect notable qualifications. And when we do our waiver wire episodes, we're going to rank those guys, tell you how you should prioritize them when you're picking them up, and so much more. The link to join us on the Insiders Track is in the link. The link is in the bio if you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order, only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. And all right, Matt, this is one of my favorite episodes, believe it or not, in the year. We got a bunch of great names that are on the block, 10 to be exact. And you know what? A lot of pitching on the market, and but we're gonna do the bats first. I believe so. We're gonna let Matt take the wheel. Actually, Matt, you know what? Let me stop talking. Where are we going, brother?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the most fantasy impactful guys first, and that's the bats, right? Who's going to increase our fantasy output if they get traded to another team? And let's start off with Luis Robert right now of the Chicago White Sox playing, center field. Robert has a lot of names and teams tied to him. I've heard Yankees thrown around. I've heard Phillies thrown around. I've heard a lot of places. And if he goes to the two I just named, the fantasy production is going to be bonkers. And especially the way he's been performing of late, it's like as if he knows, hey, I'm going to get traded soon. Let me start, going through my spring training, because now he's starting to heat up. So, you get him off a team where there's nobody around him. You get him in a better hitting park, such as Citizen Bank Park, which I would love. It would be absolutely monstrous. The shorter porches, the ribbies potential, the runs potential, where I think he'll hit in both those lineups should just be fantasy gold. And look, the dude already has 26 stolen bases on the season. I think the batting average is going to start coming up and probably finish with a 245-ish, which would be an insane second half numbers for if he gets traded. And he's already starting to show off his power over the last month, 3 bombs. So, I'm excited to see what he's going to do. He gets moved to either of those teams or a contender in general. Luis Robert, skyrocket in that. So if he's available, add him because he's 74% owned. But also, I'm by trying to acquire him on the cheap before the price goes out the window.
Yeah, man, I think we brought Robert up 2 weeks ago, I want to say about. He got down to like 65% owned, or in the low 60% owned. That's why we brought him up on one of the must-add episodes, right? He's up to 74, like you mentioned, but that's still too low. Luis Robert should be universally owned. I know the numbers don't imply it, but this guy, as Matt mentioned, has been, all-star, hit 38 home runs in a season before, has speed. He's going to be a threat. I think he's easily going to get moved, and you want to talk about potential landing spots. The Dodgers can always Dodger. Wouldn't be shocked if that one happens. The Mets, I heard the Mets might be in on Robert. That could be an interesting landing spot if he goes there. I just would love to see Robert play for a contender, right? If Luis Robert gets out there and is on a contender, it's almost a case of the Juan Sotos, right? Juan Soto's last year in Washington was tough. Even when he got to San Diego, it was tough for a little bit, but then he figured it out. At the last little bit with San Diego was great, was really good with the Yankees, had a career year, and he's having pretty solid year over there with the Mets. So I think we could see the same thing with Robert. Just needs to be motivated. It's tough to go out there and play for a team like the White Sox, for his whole career he's been there, and they really haven't been good for 90% of that time. But let's keep things pushing, right? Let's move on to this next guy. Big power bat, Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he plays third base, of course. Having arguably his best season, even though he's had some very good seasons in the past. So far on the year, Eugenio Suarez has played 105 games, 248 batting average, 64 runs, 36 bomb skis, 87 RBIs, right? Having a monster season. He was somebody I believed in coming into the year. And I honestly think it's going to be, if he winds up in the middle of the lineup, the big rumor with Suarez has been the Cubs, right? If he goes over there and he's hitting with Kyle Tucker and them boys, PCA, that lineup's been really good this year. So I kind of just see Eugenio Suarez. If he winds up with the Cubs or in the middle of a really good lineup, the RBIs are only going to get better. He's still going to hit tanks because he hits the ball so hard and far. He has 5 home runs and 9 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. Of course, it comes with not a great batting average, 229, but you're not counting on Eugenio Suarez to be, there for batting average. It's just basically tanks and RBIs for Suarez, and he's really, really good at doing both of those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, God, you put him in a hitter-friendly park, and it's just going to be lights out. I'm excited. I mean, you made great takes. For time's sake, I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about Brandon Lau, whatever his name is, the second baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays, not the outfielder. And you're seeing teams that are in on him: the Mets, the Yankees, the Astros. Those are all great names and landing spots where I think that he could really succeed. You talk about a lineup around him. You talk about the parks that are, not as friendly as a, AAA park, but are still hitter friendly. And those are the key things you want in him. And it'll probably give him a little incentive to try and play through an injury. So I definitely want to see him get moved to one of those teams for my fantasy value. And, he's a guy that, again, somebody you might want to try to trade for because he doesn't drive a high price right now that could be a fantasy second half superstar for you. So I probably want to go and try and add him if possible.
Yeah, man, great take. And once I think it's Brandon Lau, but you always get so confused. I always get so confused with those guys over there in Tampa. But he's actually been having a great year. Nice little comeback year. 86 games played, which is not too bad, especially for a guy like Brandon Lau who's always hurt. 55 RBIs, 269 batting average, 19 bombs, 50 RBIs, and 3 steals. Can't be mad at that at all. He's still only 74% owned too. Go out there, check your waiver wires. He might be out there. Second base has been abysmal this year. So if he's sitting out there on the waiver wire, it might be nice to boost at second base. Matt, you mentioned some of the teams, the Mets, Astros. I saw the Dodgers. The Dodgers are on everybody, apparently. They're always on everybody. So you're always going to see the Dodgers there. But some nice little landing spots for Brandon Lau. Get him in a good lineup. Going to hit some tanks, RBIs. And you know what, man? He's had some good batting average here. So I'm not buying the 269, but could he hit 255 plus? I definitely think that's in the ballpark, and somebody that power in spades for Brandon Lau. But before we move into the pitching half of this episode, and we got names like Mackenzie Gore, Joe Ryan, Sandy Alcantara, and a bunch of closers coming up next. And all right, time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is once again, this offer cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders, whether you're meeting up with your friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. And all right, guys, before we move on and get into these rest of these trade rumors and how they're going to impact your fantasy baseball team, I just want to mention one more thing. Join us on the Insiders Track. It's a tough time of year for fantasy, even if you're doing really well. You might have fantasy football coming up, and you just need that secret weapon that's going to put you over the top. And when you join the Insiders Track, it's just a text messaging alert right to your phone. You're going to get so many updates, prospect call-ups. We're going to rank our waiver wire guys for you, and you can ask us any kind of question, especially with trade deadlines coming up. You could shoot Matt and I some offers that you guys are getting, what you think, what you want to do for your teams, and we're going to help you get the job done right. So join us on the Insiders Track. Links in the bio if you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. But all right, Matt, let's talk some pitchers. And if you have the next guy pulled up by any chance, I'd love to pass it over to you, my brother.
Yeah, I got you. So here's the deal. We're talking about Mackenzie Gore, starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals. So there's a lot of talk of whether he's even going to get moved. That's the kind of one of the key parts, right? If he gets moved, who's the team and how much is it going to cost? Well, the problem is he's 26 years old. And the Nationals are kind of on the upswing. Between, James Wood just coming out and being an absolute stud, and that rest of that squad, especially if Dylan Cruz being able to hit things like that, things are going to look real nice for them. So they might not want to trade away their all-star pitcher, but teams that could make a push towards him is really looking like if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be the Cubs. Cubs are looking to improve, and it looks like, hey, this is the right time to do it. They could pay a hell of a price. They got some prospects out there that probably can get the job done and fill their needs now with some veterans. It definitely makes sense. It's just a matter of, will Washington want to hear it because of the age, the contract, and such. I like Gore. I think that he would be a much more valuable fantasy asset on the Cubs just based off of win potential and things like that. But, it comes with a risk either way. I mean, Gore's second half could be also, hey, fatigue because it's the most innings he's pitched in a very long time. And this is also just one of those things, too, where, we've only seen him perform at this level once. So, is he going to be able to maintain this for a full season? This is all things that are going to have to happen. So Mackenzie Gore gets traded to the Cubs. He's a pitcher I might be eyeing to sell really high on and see if I can get something for him. So, it's all push and so this isn't all ebbs and flows of, hey, go and acquire. It might be, hey, the value might be at its peak because Mackenzie Gore might not be able to handle the workload from here on out or the pressure playing in this Cubs area where, quite honestly, they look like a team that's going to try and make a push for the World Series this year with the team they have. And can Gore handle the pressure? This is all things you have to take into factor. So Mackenzie Gore, I think if he's going anywhere, he's going to the Cubs.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Gore. I think fatigue is hitting him, or something's off. It might just be ebbs and flows of the baseball season. He did throw 166 innings last year, so I'm not super worried about like an innings limit or anything like that. Last year was the 166, the year before 136. So he's building up slowly over the years. He's still only 26. A lot of upside here with Gore. Made a lot of good improvements this year. I hear what you're saying, Matt. I think if he goes to the Cubs, the price goes up. So I think if you do believe in Gore and you want to get on him now, and then don't forget the whip's getting up there. It's a 1.27 whip at this point through the 117 innings. 144 strikeout, 3.52 ERA is good, but hasn't been as good like the last, I want to say, like month and a half or so. So, Matt, great take on Gore, and for time purposes, I'm just going to keep things pushing. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Joe Ryan of the Minnesota Twins, starting pitcher here, right? The Twins are kind of out of it. I think they're going to sell here. We might see a lot of Twins players on the move. The big rumor I'm seeing here, and I kind of like it, Joe Ryan to Seattle. Seattle's got a lot of top prospects. They don't really need pitching, but from what I'm reading here, Seattle kind of has thrown an offer of a few of their top prospects in Harry Ford, Feline Celestine, and Tyler Locklear. That's actually a pretty solid package. If Minnesota just wants to sell out and sell a guy like Joe Ryan, who is having a great year. He's really killing it. But if he goes to Seattle, man, a lot of good pitchers around him like Gilbert and Castillo and them boys over there. You get to work with other great pitchers. That's always a good thing. They do a good job over there. It's a great ballpark to pitch in. And like I said, Joe Ryan this year through 20 starts, 2.82 ERA, 121 innings pitched, 137 strikeouts and an 0.9 whip. Honestly, guys, I should have stood on business. I had Joe Ryan ranked so high, at like my first ranking through the year, but I kind of backed down a little bit because nobody else believed in him. I think it was me and like Nick Pollock, and I think Nick Pollock even talked him down to at one point. But love me some Joe Ryan. I'm very happy he's having a great year, and if he goes to Seattle, I think his value goes up. Another guy I'd love to try and trade for myself, personally.
Yeah, I mean, he gets traded to a true contender. This dude just goes lights out. I was right there with you. If you forget, I had him as a top 24 pitcher going into the season. So I like Joe Ryan.
Somebody pull the tape on that one. Pull the tape.
I have the rankings printed up, but it's fun. Anyway, Joe Ryan is awesome. He gets traded to a contender. It's going to be fun. Great take. I'm going to move on for time's sake as well. Sandy Alcantara, starting pitcher for the Miami Marlins. There's a lot of teams tied to him, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's just he needs to change the scenery or something like that. But we are hearing Dodgers, Cubs, Boston Red Sox. Like there's quite a few teams that are in on Alcantara, and he goes to the Dodgers. I think that's one of the more exciting places for me because they might be able to work on his kinks, and it's just great, and then we could just kind of see what's going on there. But ultimately, this doesn't affect anything. But I think his trade value. I think if he goes to that team, I'm trading him. It's one of those things where everybody will go and hop on the bandwagon of the freshly traded Sandy Alcantara, who had a great spring training, and that's really about it. Everything else has kind of been ebbs and flows, and everybody's hoping he can bounce back in the second half, but I still haven't seen it. So he gets moved to a contender. I'm totally trying to move him faster than I can blink. So Sandy Alcantara, wait and see where he lands, and I'm telling you, he goes to the Dodgers specifically, and that value is skyrocketing.
See, now this is I think he might be the odd man out for me on this episode. I might go out on a limb. I don't think Sandy gets traded. Comments coming from the GM over there in Miami, and they basically said they want a very high end prospect for Sandy. And I don't think that's happening. I don't think any team is going to go out there, and Sandy's just had a bad year. I know the last two starts have been good, but he's trying to sell himself. The team's trying to sell him. I'm not buying that Sandy's going to be fantastic anywhere he goes. And if I read correctly, Miami has control over Sandy through 2027. So I don't know if I'm buying this one. I just wanted to throw the name on there because, as Matt said, the trade rumors are swirling wild about Sandy. But I don't know if they are asking it. If Miami's asking a top prospect for him, I don't see it getting done. If they lower their asking price, yeah, sure, why not? Miami's kind of got to get rid of some of these older guys, start going into the new with the younger guys because they're starting over sooner than later. But before we move on and we talk one last starting pitcher in Dylan Cease, and then we move into the closer trade market, which is buzzing at the moment. Quick break. And all right, Matt, I'm going to just ask you the question because I know how you feel about the next guy. If the haterade is ready, I'll let you fire.
I don't have it ready.
All right, so I'll spread a little bit of I don't know. I'm not even going to talk too positive about him. It's Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has been bad, man. I have such a bad relationship with Dylan Cease in fantasy baseball, man. I've taken him one too many times. And Matt, this one I'm going to 100% give you credit on because you've tried to talk me out of Dylan Cease in the preseason. But in our home league, he fell. I think I got him as my SP4. And I was just like, oh, SP4? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll take Dylan Cease, man. I know it's been bad. 22 starts for Cease this year. 4.79 ERA, 1.34 whip. Strikeouts have been great. 118 innings, 153 strikeouts, but also only 3 wins. I don't know. The change of scenery worked last time for Dylan Cease when he left the White Sox and went over, to San Diego. He's been pretty good there. Obviously, this is a bad year, but I don't know. As for rumors, though, it's looking like let's see what they're saying here. I haven't heard nothing too firm. Boston seems in the mix. Boston needs a starting pitcher over there to help out Crochet. So I could see that one, being a good one there, except it's not a great park to pitch in. But, that could be interesting, seeing him over there in Boston. Listen, I never count the Dodgers out for anybody at all. maybe Houston. Could see him maybe going over to Houston. Actually, I kind of would like that fit for Dylan Cease. Good team that's in it for a pennant. So could be a good fit over there too. But in general, it's just tough with Dylan Cease, man. For fantasy purposes, if he gets the fresh start, I'd like it a little bit more. If you could buy super low, if you could pay 40 cents, 30 cents on the dollar for Dylan Cease, I'd do that, but probably not much more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready now because the haterade is now in me. But ultimately, like the only place that I think that I think he becomes valuable is if he goes to the Mets, stays in a pitcher protected park. If he doesn't stay in a pitcher protected park, I think that it's probably a zero form, a zero none, whatever. It's just a bad place to land. Well, long story short, look, the Yankees seem in on him, the Red Sox seem in on, the Cubs seen him. It seemed like they're in on him. Mets, Blue Jays, like the only park that is safe is the Mets. He goes anywhere else, and I'm just not gonna feel it. Yeah, like the other, it's a contender, air quote, but think about it. He's been pitching in San Diego, one of the better pitcher parks in the league. And now you got to go up and say, okay, cool, take him out of that, put him in a hitter friendly park along with the way he's been playing. Yeah, I don't like that landing spot. So Mets is the only level pegging place that I think could, honestly provide, a better upside for me. Other than that, I'm going to try and trade him for whatever I can get at that point. So yeah, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about Johan Duran, closer now, and Duran has a lot of ties to a lot of places, and it's intriguing to see. He is, I think, the best closer on the market, in my opinion. He's been just solid this year, and I could see him going to the Phillies. I could see him go to the Yankees. I could see him going to the Dodgers and just having the most elite bullpen I've ever seen in my entire life. The Cubbies need a closer. The Rangers, the Detroit Tigers. There's a lot of teams that need a closer, and Duran will fit those needs and drive a high price. So it's really just going to come back down to the battle of who has the best prospects and willing to give up enough to go out and get Duran. So the best landing spot obviously is going to be the Cubs, in my opinion, because or Detroit. If he goes to the Dodgers, I think his value might actually die just because, all those names there and there just seem to be rocket a committee. Now let's add another guy in there. That's just bad news. And those two have the highest win potentials, Yankees, obviously, but you never want to see a pitcher try and walk into New York and, might not be able to handle the pressure there. And also too, if Judge goes down with his elbow again, which even though he's vamping it back up, all that win potential goes away if he goes down again. So just, I feel like the best landing spot is either the Cubs or Detroit for me. And then the dude's absolutely lights out.
Man, that's actually a spot on take. Not much else to say there. Yeah, I agree. Duran's arguably the best closer on the market. If the Dodgers is tough because, like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and they get tricky. But I think Duran's good enough to go there and lock down the job there in LA. It's definitely a possibility. He's somebody I think if you could trade for him, well, not as you guys listen to this, it's he's been traded or he hasn't. But I don't know. I like Duran a lot. Great closer. I'm sorry. Let me keep things pushing though. Let's move on to arguably second best closer on the market, Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals, right? We talked about all the teams that need closers. Helsley himself, having a nice little year there in St. Louis, just doesn't have enough opportunities, 21 saves on the year, 3 whip, 1.39, 3 ERA, 1.39 whip, 36 innings pitched, 41 strikeouts. Just needs to get onto a contender where he can, get the job done and close out games more often. A lot of upside here. He's very young still, too. So if he goes to a good team, I think going to have quite a few good years to come here with Ryan Helsley.
Yeah, it's just a matter, again, landing spot. I mean, the same landing spots that are, out there for Duran is the same thing. I mean, I think that the same teams that need a closer there, I think he'll be able to handle wherever he lands. I think that he'll go wherever Duran doesn't at the second best team. So it's just exciting to see where he's going to land. We'll see. It kind of is what it is. Let's move on. Last guy here, David Bednar. He's someone that I'm not really caring all that much. He's a guy that I think If anything, he might go to a rotation depending on the landing spot and could possibly end up being, a middle relief guy or a setup man and lose all his closer ability and upside at this point. Even if he goes to Philly, I think he'll be mixed in. If he goes to Detroit, that's probably his best spot for success, or the Rangers. But I don't foresee him being the guy that they're counting on. If anything, he's the guy that they kind of try to grab, but they're also grabbing another closer with that, because I don't think that any team is going to trust him with him in the ninth full time, because he just has been so unreliable for the last 2 years that I can't see somebody bringing him in as anything but a setup man.
I don't know. I think we actually have something to talk about here, because I think I disagree on this one. I think Bednar's actually been stellar. He's been phenomenal. I know he had a tough go of it at the beginning, but 38 innings on the year, 17 saves, 2 wins, 51 strikeouts, 2.37 ERA, and a 1.11 WHIP. He's been great. And then even if you look over the last 30 days, he's been just absolutely dominant. 0.96 ERA, 107 WHIP, 9 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, 6 saves. Just depends on where he goes. If he goes to a team that already has an established closer just because they want a great setup man too, we've seen that happen plenty of times where closers go to teams that are already great and lose all their value. Has happened plenty of times at the trade deadline over the year, and then you just basically got to drop him unless you're in a holds league because it stinks. Could see that happening. But if Bednar goes to a team that is shaky already at closer, I could see him taking it away and running with it, just because he's actually having a nice little bounce back year this year, and he's been especially good over the last month. But guys, we're actually and Matt, unless you got anybody else you want to throw in real quick.
No, I think we've covered enough names. You get us out of here. It's fine.
All right, guys. Shout out to our everydayers, new listeners, making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. We appreciate having you guys here. And as I said, appreciate all of you guys. And then for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB or on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. But guys, until next time, see ya.
Peace.